But at one point, I imagine you're sitting on stage, because he sat on stage, and you're looking out at this audience of like 5,000 people, 10,000 people. If you're at a stadium, if you're at a festival, 100,000 people, and you look out there and you go, silly me. I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one who felt this way. It turns out there's 50,000 people out there standing in the stadium. There's 10,000 people in this arena, and they feel the exact same way that I felt. I just never realized it, because I never put myself out there to talk to people. And then everybody who hears it is hearing it and going, holy crap, there's somebody who feels the way that I feel. And so they buy the record, and then they go to a concert, they buy a t-shirt. And then they come back to school the next Monday, and they're wearing their concert t-shirt, and somebody in their chemistry class, I don't know, sees them and says, Blues Traveler. Oh, I like that band, that's cool. And oh yeah, I went and saw them this week. Oh, you're a fan, yeah. Dude, I didn't know anybody else here listened to them. I thought nobody here was into that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, I love that kind of stuff. What else are you into, man? And they start talking about music, like, hey, we should get together. Yeah, it's cool, let me get your number, man. We'll get together and we'll listen to some music. Turns out one of them plays guitar. The other one's always wanted to sing. And then they start to form their own little tribe that way, because it's the music that brought people together. And that's why art, especially music, is so powerful, because there's almost nothing else in the world that can make you feel like you're not so alone, or that you're the only one, quite like music can. I ask that because it could be a sense of jealousy, like, oh, they're happy, but I'm not, I wish I was. Or it could be, how come they're happy and I'm not? In other words, there's a sense that there must be something uniquely wrong with me. Everybody else seems happy. Everybody else is always smiling. Nobody else seems to be depressed. But it's that word seems that's in there. I wonder how many of us are depressed and we seem, or at least we think we seem like we're not. And you can multiply that by the world. How many people seem like they're okay, but really not. You know. I know, I'm sure a lot of you know people like this. I know some of you, in fact, I know some of you are this person who go through things, and then you give off this like persona of somebody who's okay. Well, you might be okay, but not going through stuff, I might say. Okay. Others. So the word apt, so we're more apt to be depressed when we're surrounded by people who are smiling, because it does give us that sense that there must be something that's uniquely wrong with us. Versus if we're surrounded by people who are actually depressed, then we kind of see that. But part of the problem with it is that, and that's where wisdom, I guess, comes into play. Because if you surround yourself by people who are depressed, well, you become like that. You guys ever hear the term social contagion? It's a term that's worth knowing, especially in 2025. This is one of those words. This is one of those terms that it's a real thing. But if I say a whole bunch of things about it, I end up in the principal's office again. A social contagion is exactly what it sounds like. It's when something is contagious socially. So, for example, we do these studies on. Oh, here's a good one actually. So there's a study that was done on teenage girls who get pregnant. Teenage girls who get pregnant are in a very tight-knit social group, particularly if it happens towards the beginning of a school year. Guess what happens to that social group? Quite literally. Yeah. Several of them within that social group end up getting pregnant. You find that when you put people together socially, especially if they're really tight-knit, that when one person has something going on, others do. It's not just pregnancy. It's also anorexia. It's also bulimia, eating disorders. It's also mental health disorders, depression, anxiety. If you have one person who's in a group and they're like, oh my God, I feel so anxious, you start to see the other people in the group start reporting the exact same thing. And then, of course, there's another one that's like really controversial, but yeah, the research is what it is, man. Trans and gay also seem to be parts of social contagion. The more you have in a group, then the more that kind of spread out from there. The more you have in a social community, the more that kind of spread out from there. So what you make of that is up to you. But we find that with regards to social contagion, things like depression. If you're depressed and you're around people who are if you're fine, but you're around a bunch of people who are depressed, it can take you over. You can become that thing. Especially if your social group is very tight knit and you don't have a whole lot of friends outside of that group, you know? In other words, if you don't have another reference point to say, oh no, most people seem like they're okay. Most people are okay. Talking about it the last couple of periods, and it stands out to me, man. I think of how do I say it? You think of depression, it's almost like if you're talking to somebody, you're depressed, and you're talking to somebody and you find out that they're depressed. I was likening it the last couple of periods to concert t-shirts, if you know what I mean by that. Some of you guys, I'm sure, are fans of System of a Down. At least you've heard of the band before, System of a Down. I was friends with them before they became System of a Down. We used to play in the club. I was in a band, they were in a band. We used to play in the clubs together. So as human beings, really, really, really nice guys. You couldn't ask for nicer guys who would make it. These guys they were talented and they believed what they were doing. And on top of all that, they were really cool guys. But before they became like really super huge, they're on their way up. I was over in Paris. I came across these two kids, probably like 12, 13 years old. I think I was like 19 or so. I came across these two kids and they were wearing System of a Down t-shirts. And I thought, that's pretty cool because when you're in Paris, you're a long way from LA. You're a long way from LA geographically. You're a long way from LA culturally. You're a long way from LA linguistically. In every way, you're a long way from LA. But these two kids who I never met before, I never talked to, I knew one thing very clearly. We had this one thing in common. And it's the one thing that if I wanted to talk to them, I could walk up to them and go, hey, System of a Down fans. They'd be like, yeah, System of a Down. And we had at least that one building block to start talking. And on top of that, I imagine we would probably find a whole bunch of other things in common. Music, probably other cultural things, because a lot kind of flows from that. And so when you talk to people who have similar things going on, it does something really important, especially if it's with regards to like mental health things, which is that it makes you feel like you're not so alone. When you're going through that, I thought I was the only one who's going through that. Because unless we talk to people, we come to think that we are somehow like uniquely cursed. Like I'm going through depression, and so, but I'm the only one who is because everybody else seems so happy. Everybody else seems so thrilled. But no, there's something uniquely wrong with me. And by the way, it happens in the reverse as well. In 2025, we're all supposed to have something wrong with us. If we don't have something wrong with us, it makes us sad. But if there's nothing wrong with you, then you can feel like there's something uniquely cursed about you in that positive sense. One of my students was applying to universities last year, and she was writing her personal statement. If any of you guys wrote your personal statements for college, I mean, how do they almost always go? You get out the violin. I was growing up, it was so hard. I mean, this kind of environment, and it was difficult, and I struggled with this. And we write all of these like sad, well, they're done now, so I can tell you, sad, pathetic emails about how poor me, I went through all this. But you know what? At the end of the day, we have to throw some cliches in there, it made me the person I am today. Some of us, I'm sure, wrote those letters, and it's a learning experience. But the student of mine was saying, I don't have any of that. She's like, my parents are together, we all love each other, I'm not struggling, we things are tight, but we get by, never really worried about those issues. I don't have any mental health things that she's aware of. There's no abuse, there's nothing like that. Yeah. She's like, what the hell do I write about? Because we're almost trained like that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to make people feel bad for us, which is a really bad message to send. It's a really bad sentiment to set for yourself. And by the way, good example. I have a former student who she still comes here all the time. She'll come in, hey, what's up, Scan? She's very extroverted. But whenever she wants something, like some paper towels or some whatever I have, she'll be like, Scanlon, can I have some paper towels? And I always give her a shit. I'm like, what the hell? What's wrong with you? She's like, what? I go, how come you come in? Hey, Scan, what's up? But as soon as you want something, it's like, oh, poor me. I have to. So what do you want me to do? I go, just walk in and ask for something. Don't feel like when you want something, you have to like ask for it from like this position of weakness and please feel bad for me and give me some paper towels. Please, sir, may I have some paper towels? Just ask for paper towels. Ask for what you want. When you ask for something, it doesn't mean that you're in a position of weakness. It means that you're in a position of asking for something. People ask things for you. Don't put them in a position of weakness. We betray a lot by the ways that we talk. If they ask you, talk about something in your life that you've overcome, and you write this long, sad email about, when I was born, it was a snowy winter day, and everything is just like grim and bleak, then I don't know what to make of someone like that, except, well, you survived. Good. But that doesn't tell me anything about your character. Talking about your character is to see things uniquely and to realize that you're not uniquely cursed. Everybody has something, and lots of people have the thing that you have. So the student was asking about what to write about. I said, how about that? How about you write about, I have nothing to complain about. That makes me unique in my generation. I don't feel the need to pathologize when I'm sad. I don't have to call it depression. I don't feel that I have to make up some kind of like physical or mental abuse or psychological abuse at the hands of my parents just to get into college. And I don't feel I have to need, she was able to craft it in such a way to just very cleverly just say, I don't, my unique challenge is I don't have a unique challenge. I'm fine. I'm fine among my generation. And she got in everywhere she wanted to go into. But the point is that sometimes there's nothing wrong with you, and you can feel like you're the only one that there's nothing wrong with. But again, a lot of times, you can go a lot of your life thinking that you're the only one. Example I was using last period, I know I've used it in your class, is John Popper from the band Blues Traveler. I talked to you guys about John Popper from Blues Traveler? This is an ugly guy. He's in a band back in the 90s. He's this, overweight's the least of his problems. He's just generally an ugly person, He's a sweater, he's overweight, he's also ugly. He's got like a weird accent. He's just, everything you imagine of like being unattractive, you just go, it's like God just put all of it into one guy and says, all right, you're playing in veteran mode, go for it. But this is a guy that he grew up in the 80s. In the 80s, he kind of had these two choices. Actually, not even really. I think give him more credit than he had. He didn't have any friends because of what he looked like and how he was. So all those Friday nights when all of his classmates were out like at parties and hanging out with friends and all that, he wasn't doing that. He was sitting at home, in his room, listening to music. Because music, he felt, was the only thing that he connected to. He could listen to people playing the blues from the 30s and the 40s and go, that's how I feel. Man, I wish I was born back then. I was born during the wrong time period. The music back then was so great. Everything, blah, 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 blah. And so he listened to that music, sat in his room, and then one day he just decided, he's singing along with it. And he realized, I really love doing this. And then one day he got a harmonica because they played the harmonica in some of those songs, and he thought, well, I don't have any talent to play guitar yet, but I'm sure I could just I can breathe into a piece of metal, I'm sure I can do it. So he did that. And he got really good at it. And then he got a guitar and played a little bit and whatever. But now, at least, even though he didn't have very many friends at all, at least he's got, this one thing that he's interested in. And so he at least feels like, even if he's alone in his generation, at least he's not alone in terms of all of humanity. And so he's wearing a concert t-shirt. Anybody ever heard the band Jane's Addiction? Oh, now if you haven't listened to Jane's Addiction, you should listen to Jane's Addiction. After you get done listening to all of the Smiths 10 times, then go back and listen to Jane's Addiction. Jane's Addiction is, they had like one or two hits, but their hits were nothing like the rest of their songs. Their hits were like completely different from what they normally did. Jane's Addiction was your favorite band's favorite band. Really influential, doing something completely different. The the singer's terrible, but he meant every single word. They started, if you've ever heard the Lollapalooza tour, they started the Lollapalooza tour. On their first night of Lollapalooza, the guitarist has a heroin overdose. They have to wake him up. He gets into a fist fight with the singer, and then he tries to slash his own wrists. They wrap him back up, shoot him with some Narcan, throw him up on stage, and he finishes the show. That's fucking rock and roll. Don't do that though. But dude, that's when rock and roll is dangerous. Anyway, he's like wearing a Jane's Addiction t-shirt. He goes down to Wendy's or something like that, and he comes across the guy who's working there, and he's like, "Oh, Jane's Addiction, yeah, Jane's Addiction. Oh man, I love that band. Hey, me too." And they get to talking. And then as they get to talking, it turns out that they have something in common: the blues. Oh, blues. Oh, bro, let me get your number, man. We should hang out and listen to music sometime. All right, cool. It was just a connection from something that somebody's wearing or something like that. So they get together and they're listening to music. Now, it's not just John Popper by himself in his mom's basement covered in Cheeto dust. Now, it's actually a second person. Now there's two of us. Yeah, now you have a friend. And that's the beginning of a tribe. You have one or two good friends, that's all you need to form a tribe. So they do that, and the guy says, "Oh, I know a guy who plays drums in some other bands. He played in school. We should go talk to him." Now all of a sudden they've got a drummer, and they're thinking like, "Why don't we just start a band, man? Like, we enjoy sitting around playing the blues. Why don't we just write our own material and make an actual band?" And then you fast forward, because this guy, John Popper, who's sitting in his mom's basement or sitting in his bedroom, he's thinking, "I'm the only one. Nobody feels like I feel. I feel so alienated and alone." And then he meets somebody else, and you realize he's not alone. And then they meet this drummer, and so they're not alone. Then you form the band, and then you go out and you play a show. First one's probably terrible, it usually is. But then after a while, you have a couple of people who show up, and you sort of recognize them in the faces. It's like, oh shoot, we have strangers who are now coming to our shows. And after a little while, maybe a few shows, maybe they'll even start singing along. They start to know some of your songs. And then all of a sudden that 4 or 5 fans becomes 10, becomes 20, becomes 50, eventually becomes 100. And then you're realizing, holy crap, there really was a market for this. There is an audience for people who feel the way that we feel. There's more of us than we realize. And then you get, they create a buzz. The record companies get interested. They sign them. They make a record. And then they release their record. And the record sold millions and millions of copies. The guys made tens of millions of dollars. They've sold tens of millions of records. But at one point, I imagine you're sitting on stage, because he sat on stage, and you're looking out at this audience of like 5,000 people, 10,000 people. If you're at a stadium, if you're at a festival, 100,000 people, and you look out there and you go, silly me. I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one who felt this way. It turns out there's 50,000 people out there standing in the stadium. There's 10,000 people in this arena, and they feel the exact same way that I felt. I just never realized it, because I never put myself out there to talk to people. And then everybody who hears it is hearing it and going, holy crap, there's somebody who feels the way that I feel. And so they buy the record, and then they go to a concert, they buy a t-shirt, and then they come back to school the next Monday, and they're wearing their concert t-shirt, and somebody in their chemistry class, I don't know, sees them and says, "Blues Traveler. Oh, I like that band. That's cool, man. Oh yeah, I went and saw them this weekend. Oh, you're a fan, yeah. Dude, I didn't know anybody else here listened to them. I thought nobody here was into that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, I love that kind of stuff. What else are you into, man?" And they start talking about music, like, "Hey, we should get together." "Yeah, it's cool. Let me get your number, man. We'll get together and we'll listen to some music." Turns out one of them plays guitar. The other one's always wanted to sing. And then they start to form their own little tribe that way, because it's the music that brought people together. They could have nothing else in common. These kids over in Paris, I could have had nothing else in common with them except for System of a Down, and that would have been enough for us to talk. And that's why art, especially music, is so powerful, because there's almost nothing else in the world that can make you feel like you're not so alone, or that you're the only one, quite like music can. So it's worth exploring, lots of music, just for no other reason except for that, except for reggae, because reggae sucks, we all know it. But every other form of music is worth exploring to see if somebody else feels the way that you do. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday. Ish. All right.